basically started all this, and I just find it a travesty that, Taylor's life now is only worth 11 years of punishment.
Welcome back to Crimetober. Tonight's story focuses on a teenager in Canada dressing up for Halloween night on her way to meet friends, but unfortunately turns into a tragedy. This story is about Taylor Van Diest, and it is a case that reminds us of how a moment of celebration can turn into a tragedy. Taylor Van Diest was an 18-year-old living in Armstrong, British Columbia, a rural area. Taylor was a senior in high school, known for her creativity and very loving towards her family and friends. On the night of Halloween, October 31st, 2011, Taylor dressed up as a zombie, grabbed her phone, and headed out to meet her friends. At 6 p.m., she texts her friend, "I'm on my way." Not even moments later, Taylor would send an alarming text to her friend, being creeped. It had appeared that someone was following Taylor, and that would be the last text that she would send out. Now, when Taylor did not show up to meet with her friends, they grew worried. And this is when they began to search for Taylor. Taylor was found knocked unconscious near a railroad track. It had appeared that she was beaten very savagely. She was strangled and sexually assaulted. She was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, Taylor will scrummage to her injuries, and she did die on Halloween night of 2011. The small town of Armstrong had been shaken to its core because they have not really experienced anything like this or to this magnitude.
It should be a nice, safe little place to live, and it kind of makes you nervous. I don't like it.
I think it hits really close to home. I mean, you don't expect this in a small community. It's pretty low crime rate.
When police collected DNA evidence from the crime scene, they did not find anyone that matched as far as the DNA. It would take a year later for them to figure out who had brutally attacked Taylor. In 2012, investigators finally figured it out. It had turned up that it was 32-year-old Matthew Foerster, who was a man that was known for his violence. He had a long record of violence.
Police obtained Foerster's DNA from a 2005 attack at a Kelowna escort agency. Police say he's facing several charges in connection with that crime, including sexual assault. And prior to that attack, Foerster is alleged to have committed a home invasion in his hometown of Cherryville.
In that case, a young 19-year-old woman was seriously assaulted.
Now, Matthew and his father were both arrested because it had appeared that Matthew's father helped him cover up the crime scene. Like, what, sir? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And the sad reality of it is he literally left her to die. She could have probably maybe had made it if she would have gotten assistance. So on the night that Taylor was attacked, it had been stated that she was attacked near that railroad as she was walking towards, to meet up with her friends. So the details surrounding what exactly happened to Taylor were as followed. It had appeared that Matthew was following Taylor near the railroad tracks where she had been walking near to meet up with her friends. He attacked Taylor from behind with this flashlight that he was carrying and belonged to him, that they did find. Then he began to strangle her and then, of course, sexually assaulted her, which is where, how the DNA, not where, but how the DNA turned up. And the thing, as I began to read, Taylor did try to fight back. She had a lot of bruises around her neck. She had a severe head injury, of course, due to him hitting her, with that flashlight. At first, when I was trying to read, I was like, well, maybe he had hit her with a rock, but he actually hit her with a flashlight, like I said, attacking her from behind. What a coward. So in 2014, Matthew was convicted of first-degree murder and sexual assault causing bodily harm. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole after 25 years. Now, his father also was convicted as well due to the obstruction of a crime scene.
This is the second time that Foerster has been sentenced for Van Diest's death. He was originally convicted of first-degree murder and ineligible to apply for parole for 25 years. However, he successfully appealed that conviction and struck a plea deal, pleading guilty to second-degree murder in the hopes that he would be eligible to apply for parole in 17 years. Today, he got that. But Foerster's already spent 6 years in custody since his arrest, so he's now eligible to apply for parole in April of 2020.
Taylor's case had struck fear in her community, as it rightfully should, because an 18-year-old girl walking through her own neighborhood to have fun on Halloween night like any other teen is so unfortunate. And it caused a lot of fear in the community, especially being as though what exactly happened to Taylor that night. And the simple fact that she texted her friends being creeped. Can you imagine the fear that she felt noticing that a man was following her and you're trying to figure out what's the best thing to do in that scenario? Taylor Van Diest was just 18 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her, and sadly, it was taken from her on Halloween night in 2011. The good thing is her killer is behind bars and he cannot harm anyone else. But it's so, and I know I use that word a lot, unfortunate, but it's really one of the words that I just can describe when I think about different cases, especially a young girl. 18, you're almost about to graduate and have your whole life ahead of you, and then this man takes it from you. And this is why I always tell anyone, I don't care what age you are, to be self-aware of your surroundings, because you never know who is watching you and following you. And unfortunately for Taylor, someone was actually watching her and following her, and her instincts did kick in. But I always tell people, like, when you're a female, you cannot always overpower a man. And it's just makes me so mad that you can't even walk outside sometimes without these nasty, diabolical people that do these things to any age group of women. It's like, it's so infuriating. I always say, like, when I walk my dog, how I'm always looking over my shoulder and how exhausting it is, because we should not have to live in a society like that. But that's the society that we live in, with predators around us who should have already been in jail. Okay? But that is the story of 18-year-old Taylor Van Diest. Like I said, she had her whole life ahead of her, but I'm so glad that her killer is behind bars and he cannot harm anyone else. Her story will live on, and I had to share it for you guys to listen. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Crimetober.